My name is Jordan Nguyen, and in this family, I am the afterthought, the cautionary tale, the one people look past when they're too busy applauding someone else's highlight reel. I never wanted the spotlight, at least not like this. It all started on a Thursday night. My brother Eli, the rising star, decided to throw a virtual party to celebrate his latest promotion at Skyfront Technologies. A hybrid event, he called it. Colleagues mingling in a fancy lounge downtown, the rest of us beaming in via screens from living rooms, kitchens, wherever we were stuck. I was wedged between my soldering iron and a half-dismantled tablet, my camera angle all wrong, my hair pulled back in a messy bun. Eli was glowing in the bar's neon light, expensive whiskey in hand, perfect smile dialed up for the audience. "Jordan, there you are," he shouted, waving at the camera. "Everybody, this is my big sister. She fixes phones for a living." There it was. A simple sentence tossed out like a joke. The first laugh came from one of his co-workers, then another. The sound built, a ripple of amusement through the call. "Wow, you still fix phones," someone said, and another voice chimed in. "Isn't that a side hustle for high schoolers?" I forced a laugh, my cheeks prickling with embarrassment. "Well, somebody's got to do it," I tried, keeping my voice steady. I glanced at the chat, heart emojis, a few snarky gifs, even my Aunt Linda typing, "You're so handy, honey," with a winking face. But Eli wasn't done. "Don't mind her. One day she'll get a real job, right, sis?" His grin widened and his colleagues raised their glasses. It was supposed to be harmless, but the way everyone looked at me, like I was a punchline, a project, not a person, it stung more than I wanted to admit. I swallowed, looked down at my calloused hands, wishing I could disappear into the circuitry on my desk. Someone muted to giggle more loudly. My dad, dialed in from his recliner, said nothing, just kept staring at the screen with that old, weary look I knew too well. I played along. I made a show of holding up a screwdriver and spinning it like a magic trick. "Hey, Eli, let me know when your smart fridge breaks down. I'll put you at the top of my waiting list." People laughed again, but this time it felt sharp, not warm. My heart beat faster, my skin growing tight. The party rolled on. People swapped stories, bragged about deals closed, vacations planned. I sat silent, shrinking, until Eli called out, "Thanks for joining, Jordan. Maybe next time you can show us how to fix a broken iPhone screen." I smiled, just barely. Then I clicked, "Leave meeting." The laughter didn't stop. It echoed in my headphones long after the call ended, wrapping around my thoughts like static. In that moment, the world felt small, smaller than the inside of a busted circuit board. I sat there staring at the empty screen, my hand still clutching the screwdriver as if it could protect me from their laughter. Sometimes I wonder, if you lose your place at the family table, do you ever really get it back? Have you ever been underestimated by your own family? Have you ever felt like your whole life was just a setup for someone else's joke? If you know that feeling, even a little, drop your story in the comments below. And if you want more true inspired drama, like and subscribe. You're not alone. As I sat there, the screen fading to black, I found myself drifting back to old dreams I'd buried under years of noise and laughter that never quite reached me. When the party ended, I sat alone at my workbench, the sharp blue glow of my monitor flickering across a mess of wires and half-repaired tablets. My reflection in the screen looked tired, older maybe, eyes rimmed with a familiar ache. Sometimes I wonder if I was always destined to be the invisible one, or if it happened slowly, one disappointment at a time. My family came to America with suitcases full of hope and a single unspoken rule: make them proud, no matter the cost. My parents, immigrants from Vietnam, poured every ounce of energy into building a new life in a new world, working double shifts, saving every penny, measuring love by achievement. Our cramped apartment echoed with the clatter of chopsticks and the sharp warnings of my father. Work hard, keep your head down, don't bring shame. Growing up, I wore my grades like armour. I was the bright one, the daughter who aced her math classes, who won the science fair, who snagged an engineering scholarship when other kids were still figuring out who they wanted to be. For a while, I could see pride in my dad's tired eyes, a rare softness at the corners of his mouth. Even my mom, fierce and unsentimental, let her hand linger on my shoulder just a moment longer some nights. But family pride is a fragile thing. My little brother Eli lived in my shadow for years. He'd watch me from behind the couch, copying my homework, listening as our parents told relatives about my awards on speakerphone. I used to think he'd always be my biggest fan. Then everything changed. My mum got sick. I was 19, old enough to sign forms, too young to understand the cost. The scholarship letter from state was still taped to the fridge when I gave it up. Instead of dorm rooms and robotics club, I learned how to read prescription bottles and argue with insurance companies. Nights blurred together, hospital corridors, microwaved noodles, the hush of late-night Vietnamese talk shows on TV. I dropped out, just for a semester at first, telling myself I'd catch up when things got better. But things didn't get better. When Mom died, a silence grew in our apartment, a silence so thick it pressed the air from my lungs. Sometimes I still walk into a quiet room and expect to hear her voice, calling me to dinner, asking if I'd eaten yet. My father retreated into himself, barely speaking, a ghost in his own home. Eli changed too. He grew harder, more ambitious, desperate to fill the void with something, anything that would bring back the old pride. I watched from the sidelines as Eli started chasing every trophy he could find. Debate club, coding competitions, LinkedIn internships before he could legally vote. He became the son our dad wanted, or at least the version that looked good in family group chats. As for me, I faded. At dinners, my father would sigh, "You're wasting your potential, Jordan." When he spoke to friends, it was always my son, the tech manager. My old medals gathered dust in the closet, trophies for a girl who didn't exist anymore. Now, our conversations, when they happen, are clipped, awkward, half in English, half in Vietnamese, never quite whole. Most days we're just names in a group chat, sending memes, holiday gifts, the occasional "how are you" that floats unanswered for days. Scrolling through Eli's feed, I see him smiling with his team, giving presentations, collecting titles. Each post a reminder that he got what he wanted, and maybe, just maybe, he left me behind on purpose. I used to think my life would look like Eli's, a string of corporate milestones, sharp suits, team dinners, endless LinkedIn updates. Instead, I work in a faded brick storefront squeezed between a laundromat and an old bakery. The sign out front says, "Jordan Fixes," hand-painted, a little crooked after all these winters. Most days I open early, close late, and breathe in the mingled scents of solder and burnt toast from next door. My shop isn't glamorous, but it's mine. There's a satisfaction in rolling up my sleeves, prying open a laptop, and coaxing life out of something everyone else gave up on. My clients aren't the kind who leave 5-star Yelp reviews. They're people like Mrs. Tran, who brings in her battered radio every other month just so she can hear the old love songs her husband used to play. Or Mr. Patel from 2 blocks over. He doesn't trust anyone else to touch his electric shaver. They don't care that my degree isn't framed on the wall. They care that I show up and that things work again. Family doesn't see it that way. Whenever Dad calls, it's always the same. "Your shop's still open. You must really like tinkering with old junk." Sometimes Eli drops by, rarely, but when he does, he looks around with an expression that lands somewhere between amusement and pity. "You know, Jordan, there are easier ways to make a living." I just shrug. I like fixing things, I tell them, even if they never really hear it. But there are moments that make all the difference. Like last month when a single mom named Keisha came in with a busted laptop and panic in her eyes. "I have a college final tonight," she said, voice cracking, "and this is the only computer I've got." I stayed late, fingers aching, running diagnostics and replacing a fried power supply with a used part from my junk drawer. When I handed it back, booted and humming, she started to cry. "Thank you, I thought I'd never see these photos again. My little girl's first steps, I thought they were gone forever." She hugged me. I pretended not to get choked up, but her gratitude clung to me all week. Meanwhile, business has started to shift in ways I didn't expect. I film simple repair videos for TikTok and YouTube, mostly to answer the same questions my clients keep asking. How to clean laptop fans, how to reset a stubborn phone, how to solder a loose charging port. I do them in English and Vietnamese, sometimes even with subtitles for aunties who are too shy to ask in person. At first I thought nobody was watching, but every month the views ticked up. Comments trickled in, sometimes from kids in far-off cities, sometimes from grandmothers down the street. Ironically, the more I focused on helping others, the more I started noticing odd repair tickets coming through my shop's website. Bulk orders from a third-party vendor, always urgent, always with a company tag from a place called Infinitec, which I vaguely recognised as Eli's employer. I never thought much about it, just another job, another device to fix. But every time I saw those familiar serial numbers and the same recurring software glitches, I wondered who was sitting at the other end, relying on my invisible work. Clients might not remember my name, but they remember when something broken comes back to life. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it's more than enough. Late one night, as I was editing a video about fixing a stubborn Wi-Fi card, I sent the clip to my friend Mai for feedback. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of notifications, likes, comments, shares. Turns out Mai had posted my video in a huge local Facebook group, tagging me without warning. My how-to suddenly went viral, and my face, my shop, were everywhere. For the first time, my side gig was getting attention. The ballroom was lit with cold blue LEDs, walls lined with banners touting innovation and teamwork. Infinitec's logo spun in a digital loop above the stage, and the room hummed with that sharp, competitive energy tech people wear like a second skin. I clutched my invitation so tightly it left creases in my palm. Eli had told me, "Just come. You'll network, get inspired, maybe pick up a few tips for your little shop." I almost didn't show, but something in me needed to see this world with my own eyes. Maybe to prove to myself I could stand in it. Eli was everywhere, laughing, shaking hands, clinking glasses with people who spoke in acronyms and buzzwords. He wore his best suit, his LinkedIn smile, and he kept glancing at me like I was about to spill soy sauce on the servers. I faded into the background, keeping close to the refreshment table, sipping ginger ale. I told myself I was just observing, but inside my nerves buzzed. Then the room shifted. The crowd's attention drew to the stage as Carmen Reyes, the CEO, stepped into the spotlight. She radiated the kind of authority that makes people stand taller without realizing it. She scanned the room, her gaze skipping over the usual suspects. For a second I thought she'd move on. Instead she paused, looking right at me. "Jordan Nguyen?" Her voice was warm but commanding. Every conversation stilled. I felt my face flush as heads turned. "Would you join me up here for a moment?" I froze, but she waited, unwavering. I set down my glass and moved through the crowd, each step echoing off marble floors. Eli's face drained of colour. He mouthed something, maybe, "What are you doing?" But I kept going. On stage, Carmen smiled, her presence fierce but genuine. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, Tonight we're here to celebrate a successful product launch, one that almost didn't happen. A murmur spread through the room. Carmen continued, "Many of you know we faced catastrophic hardware failures just weeks before release. Most thought we'd have to delay, but what you don't know is that someone working behind the scenes solved a problem even our top engineers couldn't crack." She turned to me, voice clear. "Without Jordan's expertise, our launch would have failed. True talent deserves true credit." The applause started hesitant, then swelled. Real, surprised, then enthusiastic. I blinked, caught in the surreal glow of it. Eli's boss, 2 rows back, leaned over and whispered, "That's your sister." Eli nodded, his posture suddenly uncertain. I could see the wheels turning. How many times had he downplayed my work? How many times had he let his colleagues laugh? Carmen went on. "For months, Jordan repaired critical devices through a subcontractor, never asking for recognition. She saved us. Eli, care to say a few words?" All eyes turned to Eli. His jaw worked, then he stammered, "I didn't realize it was you. I mean, we always joked about you fixing junk, but I'm sorry, Jordan." His voice cracked, stripped of its practiced confidence. I felt the years of dismissal peeling away, layer by layer, right there under the stage lights. Carmen offered her hand. "Jordan, we'd be lucky to have you consulting for us directly. No more middlemen. What do you say?" I took a breath, feeling the weight and freedom of choice. "Thank you, Carmen. I'll think about it." The crowd parted as I left the stage, whispers swirling, admiration, curiosity, even a hint of envy. For the first time, people saw me as more than the girl with a screwdriver. Eli avoided my gaze, his earlier swagger gone, replaced by something raw, guilt maybe, or regret. Vindication tastes quieter than I imagined. There were no fireworks, just relief and the sense that, for once, I'd been truly seen. For the first time in years, I wondered, not if I'd ever fit into Eli's world, but if he was ready to step into mine. The party ended with a quiet that felt almost holy, the kind that settles after a storm. I found Eli out on the rooftop balcony, his tie loosened, the city stretching behind him in neon and haze. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. He just watched the cars move far below, hands shoved deep in his pockets. "I guess I deserved that," he said finally, voice rough. "All those years I kept thinking if I pushed hard enough, I'd finally be enough. For Dad, for myself." I joined him at the railing. "You were always enough, Eli, just not in the way you thought you had to be." He shook his head, a rueful smile crossing his face. "Remember when you fixed Mom's rice cooker with duct tape and a paperclip? I told everyone it was magic, but honestly, I was just jealous you could actually fix stuff, not just talk about it. I always felt like I was running to catch up. I'm sorry, Jordan, for all the times I made you the joke. You never just fixed things, you held us together." I let his words sink in, the truth of them warming the places inside me that had gone cold. "It hurt," I admitted. "But I guess I understand. We were all just trying to survive after Mom. There wasn't a manual for any of it." He nodded. "I kept chasing what looked good online, promotions, likes. I wanted Dad to be proud, but honestly, I don't think he even knows what makes him happy anymore. You actually made a difference. I was too busy counting followers to notice." We stood there a while, letting the city noise fill the silence between us. Then I said, "I'm not taking the consultant role, Eli. It's tempting, sure, but my shop, my community, they need me. That work matters, even if it doesn't make headlines." He looked at me, eyes honest for once. "I think you're right. You've already built something real. Maybe I can learn from that." When we returned inside, Dad was waiting by the elevator, his shoulders softer, face gentler than I remembered. He cleared his throat, shifting awkwardly. "Your mother would be proud," he said. You know, she used to say you had magic hands. I see it now. For the first time in years, we went out for dinner. No grand speeches, no forced smiles. Just 3 people sharing noodles and stories, laughing at old memories, letting go of the heaviness for a while. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, things changed. Eli stopped sending those braggy updates and started calling just to say hi, sometimes even asking for advice. Dad dropped by the shop, sometimes to bring banh mi, sometimes just to sit and watch me work. My little how-to channel kept growing. Immigrants, single parents, college kids writing in to say thank you. I hired an assistant, a high school girl named Tui, stubborn and endlessly curious. Sometimes, after closing, we'd stay late fixing old radios for free, teaching little girls from the neighborhood that their hands could build too. Watching them, I realized I wasn't just fixing things, I was helping others see their own worth. I still kept Carmen's business card, tucked away in a drawer beneath old receipts and half-finished projects. Every so often I'd take it out, running my thumb over the embossed letters, not as a reminder of what I turned down, but of the moment I finally stood my ground. People started to see me differently, or maybe I just started to see myself differently. I realized that fixing things, lifting others up, mattered more than any title or office view. Sometimes I'd pause at the shop window after closing, watching the streetlights glow across the cracked sidewalk, and feel a quiet sense of peace. My hands were still calloused, my shop still small, but my world had grown so much larger. Maybe in the end, all we really need is a place where we can be seen, not just for what we do, but for who we are when the world stops watching. In the end, healing wasn't about fixing everything that broke. It was about learning that I was never broken in the first place. Maybe that's what real revenge looks like. Not anger, not grand gestures, but quietly, stubbornly living your truth until those who doubted you can't look away anymore. It isn't about payback. It's about finally seeing yourself, standing tall in your own story, and knowing you were never less than enough. If you've ever been the one overlooked at the dinner table, the one laughed at in the group chat, the one whose dreams didn't fit someone else's mould, I want you to know you're not alone. I see you, we all do. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't about changing anyone's mind, they're about changing your own, believing in your worth even when no one else will, and letting your quiet persistence rewrite the narrative. Sometimes the world takes longer to catch up, but when it does, that moment is yours. Have you ever been underestimated by family or colleagues? Vote now, yes or no, in the comments and tell your story. Use Fix What Matters and let's see how many of us have turned doubt into strength. We want to hear it. Who knows? Your voice might be exactly what someone else needs tonight. And if you want to hear more stories like this, of resilience, redemption, and yes, a little bit of revenge, hit that like button, subscribe, and let us know what kind of journey you want to hear next. After all, every story here starts with a whisper. Maybe the next one will be yours. And as I locked up my shop that night, I spotted a battered envelope on the doorstep. No return address, just my name in shaky handwriting. I smiled. Sometimes fixing what's broken is only the beginning.